The brain scan on Dr. Jurina Beth's screen wasn't supposed to match. It wasn't supposed to be identical to the monster who'd killed 12 children. But there it was, glowing like hellfire at 3:17 a.m., showing her that evil had a face, and that face belonged to someone she trusted. Jurina's coffee mug slipped from her trembling fingers, shattering against the laboratory floor. Dark liquid spread across white tiles like spilled blood, but she couldn't look away from the screen. 5 months of research, 500 brain scans of the world's most dangerous killers. And now she'd found the pattern that would change everything. The neural signature was unmistakable. Every serial killer, every child murderer, every psychopath who'd ever made headlines, they all shared the same twisted neural pathways. The temporal lobe blazed with hyperactivity. The prefrontal cortex showed gaping black holes where empathy should live. And the amygdala, the brain's fear center, glowed with an intensity that defied medical explanation, as if these monsters fed on terror itself. But this wasn't another convicted killer's scan. This was from the annual employee health screening. Someone she worked with every day had the exact same brain signature as Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, and the Riverside Strangler. Jurina's hands shook as she checked the file name. Employee _077_Wells_Saracen_2025. Dr. Harrison Wells, her research partner of 8 years, her mentor. The man who'd guided her career, supported her theories, helped her get tenure. The same man who'd recommended her for this very study on the neurology of evil. No, she whispered to the empty laboratory. This can't be right. But as she pulled up Harrison's previous scans from 2023 and 2024, the pattern remained consistent. For 3 years, his brain had been screaming a truth that his charming smile had hidden perfectly. Every laugh they'd shared, every late-night research session, every time he decomforted families of murder victims, it had all been an act performed by someone whose brain was incapable of genuine human emotion. Jurina's phone buzzed. A text from her husband Michael. Working late again? Emma made you a drawing. She misses her mommy. Her 7-year-old daughter's innocent face flashed in her mind. Those trusting brown eyes, that gap-toothed smile. How could she explain that Mommy had discovered monsters were real and one of them knew where they lived? The laboratory door clicked open behind her. Burning the midnight oil again, Dr. Beth? Harrison's familiar voice carried its usual warmth, but now it sounded different, hollow, rehearsed. Like an actor who'd been playing the same role for so long. He'd forgotten his real lines. Jurina minimized the brain scan with lightning speed, her heart hammering against her ribs. Just reviewing the data from the prison study. You know how thorough I like to be. Harrison stepped closer, and for the first time in 8 years, his presence felt predatory. Find anything interesting? She forced herself to meet his eyes, those same kind blue eyes that had consoled hundreds of grieving families, that had looked concerned during faculty meetings about student welfare, that had never once betrayed the darkness living behind them. The usual patterns, she lied. Nothing we haven't seen before. But Harrison was studying her face with new intensity, his gaze moving from her shattered coffee mug to her trembling hands to the minimized window on her computer screen. For a brilliant psychologist, she was a terrible liar, and they both knew it. "Jurina," he said softly, "what did you find?" The question hung in the air like a blade. She could hear her own heartbeat, could feel sweat beading on her forehead, despite the lab's constant air conditioning. Every instinct screamed that she was alone in a room with something wearing Harrison's face, something that had been watching her, studying her, maybe even hunting her for years. "I found the signature," she whispered, unable to stop herself. "The neural pattern that connects them all. Every killer, every monster, they all have the same brain structure." Harrison's smile never wavered, but something shifted behind his eyes. Something ancient and hungry stirred to life. "That's remarkable work," he said, moving to her computer. "May I see?" "Harrison," her voice cracked, "when was your last brain scan?" The silence stretched between them like a chasm. Harrison's hand rested on her computer mouse, his fingers drumming a slow, thoughtful rhythm. When he finally looked at her, his mask had slipped just enough to reveal something that made her blood freeze. "Oh, Jurina," he said with genuine sadness in his voice, "you really shouldn't have found that." In the fluorescent glow of the laboratory, surrounded by equipment meant to study the human mind, Dr. Jurina Beth realized she was staring into the face of evil itself. And evil was staring back with the patient hunger of a predator who deep been discovered but wasn't yet ready to pounce. The worst part wasn't the danger she was in. The worst part was the slow, creeping realization that Harrison hadn't just stumbled into her research. He'd guided it, shaped it, fed her the right data, the right cases, the right questions to ask. He'd wanted her to find this pattern. The only question was why. Outside, winter wind rattled the laboratory windows like ghostly fingers trying to get in. But the real monster was already inside, wearing a familiar face and speaking in a trusted voice. "We need to talk," Harrison said, and his smile widened to show too many teeth. "We have so much to discuss about your fascinating discovery." Harrison's fingers moved across her keyboard with surgical precision, pulling up brain scan after brain scan. His own neural imaging filled the screen alongside convicted murderers, the patterns identical in every horrifying detail. 18 years, he said conversationally, as if discussing the weather instead of revealing himself as a monster. 18 years I've been hiding in plain sight, studying killers while being one myself. Do you know how many times I sat across from grieving mothers, offering comfort while imagining what their children's last moments were like? Jurina's throat felt like sandpaper. You killed them. The children from the Riverside case, that was you, among others. Harrison's casual admission hit her like a physical blow. 12 children over 5 years, always careful, always calculated. I learned early that the best way to hunt is to become the hunter everyone trusts. The Riverside murders had terrorized the city for half a decade. 12 children between ages 7 and 10, all found in remote areas with evidence of prolonged torture. The killer had never been caught, despite one of the largest manhunts in state history. Harrison had been the police department's primary psychological consultant on the case. "You helped profile yourself," Jurina whispered in horror. "You sat in those briefing rooms and told them what kind of person they were looking for." "I told them to look for someone antisocial, isolated, probably living alone." Harrison chuckled, the sound sending ice through her veins. "Meanwhile, I was the respected professor with the loving wife and 2 daughters. The man who coached Little League and volunteered at the Children's Hospital. Perfect camouflage. Wife and daughters." Jurina's mind reeled as she processed this revelation. "Your family doesn't know. My ex-wife and daughters think I'm a hero," Harrison said with genuine pride. "Sarah took the girls to California after our divorce, believing she was married to a man who dedicated his life to stopping monsters. She still sends me Father's Day cards thanking me for making the world safer for children." The cruel irony was suffocating. While Harrison's own daughters grew up believing their father was a protector of children, 12 other families had buried their babies because of him. "The brain scans," Jurina said, "pieces of a nightmare puzzle falling into place. You didn't just want to understand what you are. You wanted to find others like you." Harrison's eyes lit up with the first genuine emotion she'd seen from him all night. "Very good, Dr. Beth. Yes, your research has given me something invaluable, a way to identify my own kind. Do you have any idea how lonely it's been pretending to be human for 4 decades? He pulled up a new file on her computer, showing a list of names and brain scan results. Dozens of employees, students, and research subjects, all flagged with the same neural signature. All potential killers hiding in plain sight. "Dr. Martinez from the psychology department," Harrison read from the list. "That sweet grandmother everyone adores. She's been poisoning nursing home patients for 15 years. Thomas Chun from campus security. He's the one who's been disappearing homeless people downtown. And your favorite graduate student, Sarah Williams. She's been practicing on animals, but she's almost ready to move up to humans." Each revelation felt like a knife twisting in Jurina's stomach. Her colleagues, her students, people she'd trusted and worked alongside, they were all predators wearing human masks. "You've been protecting them," she realized. "Covering for them. Guiding them," Harrison corrected. "Teaching them patience, helping them avoid detection. We're a family, Jurina. A species within a species. And thanks to your research, we're finally ready to stop hiding." Jurina's phone buzzed again. Another text from Michael. "Emma's having nightmares. She keeps asking when you're coming home." Harrison glanced at the phone screen and smiled. Emma, such a precious little girl. 7 years old, brown hair and pigtails, missing her 2 front teeth. She walks to Riverside Elementary every morning at 7:45, takes the shortcut through Maple Park. The specific details hit Jurina like ice water. "You've been watching my family." "I've been watching you for 3 years, Harrison admitted. "Ever since you proposed this research project. I knew eventually you'd discover what I am, and I needed to be prepared for that moment." "Prepared how?" Harrison stood and moved to the laboratory's supply cabinet, withdrawing a small vial of clear liquid and a syringe. Succinylcholine causes complete paralysis within 60 seconds while leaving the victim fully conscious. It's undetectable in standard autopsies, breaks down naturally in the bloodstream. Jurina's blood turned to ice. You're going to kill me. I'm going to give you a choice, Harrison corrected, drawing the liquid into the syringe with practiced ease. Option 1. You disappear tonight. Another tragic case of a dedicated researcher who worked herself to death. Your family will grieve, but they'll survive. And option 2? You join us. Harrison's smile was predatory and patient. Use your research to help people like us find each other, connect with each other, protect each other. Become part of something bigger than your limited human morality. I would never. You would if the alternative was watching your daughter suffer. Harrison's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. I've studied the neurology of pain, Jurina. I know exactly how much agony the human nervous system can endure before shutting down. I could make Emma's death last for days. The threat against her daughter shattered something inside Jurina's chest. Every maternal instinct screamed at her to do whatever was necessary to protect Emma, even if it meant becoming complicit in future atrocities. You see? Harrison noted her internal struggle with clinical interest. That's the difference between us. You feel that crushing weight of love and responsibility. It paralyzes you, makes you predictable. We feel nothing but curiosity about what happens next. In the distance, Jurina heard the faint sound of sirens. Someone had triggered a silent alarm somewhere in the building. But whether help would arrive in time seemed increasingly unlikely. Decide quickly, Harrison said, raising the syringe. Your family's future depends on your answer. The laboratory door burst open as Dr. Martinez stepped inside, her grandmotherly face creased with apparent concern. Harrison, I heard the alarm. Is everything? She stopped mid-sentence as she saw the syringe in his hand and Jurina's terrified expression. Dr. Martinez, Jurina gasped, hope flooding through her. Thank God you're here. Harrison is. One of us, Dr. Martinez finished calmly, closing the door behind her and turning the lock with a soft click. Yes, dear. I know exactly what Harrison is. The hope died in Jurina's chest as she watched her colleague's kind expression shift into something cold and calculating. Dr. Elena Martinez, the beloved psychology professor who brought homemade cookies to faculty meetings and had mentored hundreds of students, was looking at her like a specimen in a lab. 15 nursing home patients, Harrison said conversationally to Martinez. That's your current count, isn't it, Elena? 17 as of last week, Martinez corrected with pride. Mrs. Patterson and Mr. Goldberg both passed peacefully in their sleep. Their families were so grateful for my compassionate care during their final moments. Jurina felt bile rise in her throat. Dr. Martinez had been the head of geriatric psychology for 20 years, specializing in end-of-life counseling. She'd won awards for her compassionate treatment of elderly patients and their families. The idea that she'd been systematically murdering the people she was supposed to help was beyond comprehension. The network is larger than you imagined, Harrison explained, noting Jurina's shock. We've been building it for decades, long before your research gave us the tools to identify each other scientifically. We find each other through instinct, through recognition, through the subtle signs only we can detect. Martinez moved to the computer and began typing, pulling up files that made Jurina's blood run cold. Campus maps marked with red dots, student rosters with certain names highlighted, faculty schedules cross-referenced with missing persons reports. The university has been our hunting ground for years, Martinez said with the casual tone of someone discussing gardening. Students disappear all the time. Transfers, dropouts, family emergencies. No one questions it when they're labeled as troubled or high risk. Jenny Morrison, Jurina whispered, remembering a graduate student who'd vanished 2 years ago. The police said she'd probably run away from debt problems. Jenny was my project, Harrison said fondly. Brilliant mind, but unfortunately she discovered some discrepancies in our research funding. She was going to report suspected fraud to the administration. So you killed her. I educated her about the consequences of interfering with important work, Harrison corrected. Jenny provided valuable data about pain tolerance and psychological breakdown under extreme stress. Her death contributed to science. Martinez pulled up another file showing photographs of missing students and faculty members stretching back 15 years. Each photo was accompanied by clinical notes describing their final moments, their usefulness to various research projects, their contribution to the network's understanding of human suffering. You've been documenting everything, Jurina realized with growing horror. Treating murders like experiments. Because that's what they are, Martinez replied matter-of-factly. We're conducting the most comprehensive study of human mortality ever undertaken. While other researchers theorize about death and dying, we observe it firsthand. We control variables, test hypotheses, gather data that could never be obtained through ethical means. A new figure appeared in the laboratory doorway, Thomas Chen, the campus security chief. His kind face, which had always made students feel safe walking alone at night, now looked predatory in the fluorescent lighting. The perimeter is secure, he reported to Harrison. No one else is coming to help tonight. Thomas handles disposal, Harrison explained conversationally. 15 years as security chief, and he knows every inch of this campus. The old steam tunnels, the abandoned buildings, the places where bodies can rest undisturbed for decades. The homeless disappearances downtown, Jurina said, remembering the news reports. That was you. Thomas nodded proudly. 43 so far. Society's discards, people no one misses. I provide them shelter and food for a few days, gain their trust, then study their responses to various stimuli. It's important to understand how different populations react to stress. The systematic nature of their crimes was breathtaking in its scope. This wasn't random violence or crimes of passion. It was an organized network of predators who turned murder into a science, using their professional positions to hunt with impunity. Your daughter Emma, Martinez said conversationally, is an interesting case study. 7 years old is the perfect age for neuroplasticity research. Young enough that traumatic conditioning can permanently rewire brain development, but old enough to provide meaningful psychological data during the process. The casual way she discussed torturing a child sent rage flooding through Jurina's system. "Don't you dare touch my daughter." "That depends entirely on your cooperation," Harrison said, moving the syringe closer to her neck. "We're offering you something unprecedented, membership in humanity's next evolutionary step. We've moved beyond the limitations of conscience and empathy that hold the species back." "You're not evolution," Jurina spat. "You're a cancer, a malfunction that needs to be cut out." Strong words from someone whose own research has done more to help us than harm us, Martinez observed. "Do you think we could have built this network without your neurological profiles? Your brain scans gave us a roadmap to find our own kind." The truth hit Jurina like a physical blow. Her research hadn't been corrupted by these monsters. It had been designed by them from the beginning. Every grant application, every study parameter, every research question had been carefully crafted to serve their purposes. The prison interviews, the criminal profiles, even the selection of which killers to study, Harrison confirmed. All orchestrated to help us understand ourselves and identify others who share our gifts. Gifts? Jurina could barely speak through her revulsion. "The gift of clarity," Martinez explained. "The gift of seeing humans as they really are, meat puppets driven by chemical reactions and evolutionary programming. We've transcended the illusions that keep the masses docile and ignorant." Thomas stepped forward with zip ties and duct tape. "Time to make your choice, Dr. Beth. Join the future or become another data point in our research." Through the laboratory windows, Jurina could see the first hints of dawn breaking over the campus. Somewhere in the distance, her daughter would be waking up soon, expecting her mother to come home. The thought of Emma facing these monsters alone gave Jurina a strength she didn't know she possessed. "I choose option 3, she said, and smashed her elbow into the nearest computer monitor. Glass exploded across the laboratory as Jurina's elbow shattered the monitor, but she didn't stop moving. Years of studying predator psychology had taught her that killers like Harrison thrived on control and psychological dominance. The moment she became unpredictable, she gained an advantage. Sparks flew from the destroyed computer as she grabbed a shard of broken glass, holding it like a weapon while backing toward the emergency lab shower. "You made one critical mistake in your research," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "What mistake?" Harrison demanded, advancing with the syringe while Martinez and Chun flanked her other sides. "You assumed I was working alone." Jurina's fingers found the emergency shower handle behind her back. "Everything I discovered tonight has been streaming live to the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit. Dr. Rebecca Torres, my former colleague at Quantico. She's been monitoring my research for 6 months, waiting for exactly this moment." The lie came out with such conviction that all 3 killers hesitated. Harrison's confident smile faltered as he processed the possibility that their network had been exposed to federal law enforcement. "You're bluffing," Martinez said, but uncertainty crept into her voice. "Am I?" Jurina pulled the shower handle, and high-pressure water exploded from the ceiling sprinklers throughout the laboratory. Emergency lights flickered on as the deluge triggered the building's safety systems. "Check my computer history, Harrison. See the encrypted video calls to Quantico. See the real-time data sharing protocols I established." Chaos erupted as water cascaded over electrical equipment. Monitors sparked and died, plunging sections of the lab into darkness. The sprinkler system's piercing alarm joined the existing security alarms, creating a cacophony that would draw attention from across campus. In the confusion, Jurina ran. She burst through the laboratory's rear exit into the pre-dawn darkness, her feet slapping against wet pavement as she heard shouting behind her. The campus stretched out before her, familiar buildings that now felt like potential death traps. How many other faculty members were part of Harrison's network? How many students had disappeared into their research projects? Her car keys were still in the laboratory, but Jurina knew these streets by heart. She sprinted toward the main road, where early morning traffic might provide witnesses and safety. Behind her, she could hear multiple sets of footsteps in pursuit. "You can't run forever, Dr. Beth." Harrison's voice echoed through the empty campus. "We know where you live. We know Emma's schedule. We know exactly how to make you cooperate." The threat against her daughter fueled Jurina's desperation. She cut through the student parking lot, weaving between cars as she pulled out her phone. Her fingers shook as she dialed 911, praying the call would connect before her pursuers caught up. 911, what's your emergency? "This is Dr. Jurina Beth at Northwestern University," she gasped, still running. "I need police and FBI immediately. Multiple homicides, active threat, organized network of faculty members." The phone exploded in her hand as Thomas Chun's taser found its target. Electricity coursed through her body, dropping her to the asphalt between two parked cars. Her muscles convulsed uncontrollably as Chen approached with zip ties. "Stupid choice," he said, kneeling beside her paralyzed form. "We offered you partnership. Now you'll become a case study in the neurology of prolonged suffering." But as Chun reached for her wrists, Jurina's paralyzed eyes spotted movement in her peripheral vision. Students were emerging from dormitories, drawn by the campus-wide alarms. Early morning joggers had stopped to investigate the commotion. The isolated predators who thrived in shadows were being forced into the light. "Chun, we have witnesses." Martinez's voice carried across the parking lot. "Abort and retreat." "Not without the data," Harrison replied. "She's destroyed too much research to let her escape." The sound of approaching sirens grew louder. Someone had heard the alarms and called for help, even if Jurina's call had been interrupted. The network's perfect hunting ground was becoming a crime scene with dozens of potential witnesses. As feeling returned to her extremities, Jurina realized something crucial. The brain patterns she'd discovered weren't just identifying evil, they were revealing its weakness. These killers needed isolation, control, and psychological dominance to function. Exposed to scrutiny and public attention, they became desperate and sloppy. "The pattern works both ways," she whispered, understanding flooding through her even as Chun dragged her toward the shadows. "You can identify them, but it also shows how to stop them." Police cars roared into the parking lot, their searchlights cutting through the pre-dawn darkness. Harrison, Martinez, and Chun scattered like roaches fleeing light, their coordinated confidence evaporating when faced with immediate consequences. "Here, over here," Jurina screamed as officers approached. "Dr. Harrison Wells, Psychology Department. He's the Riverside Killer. Check his brain scans." The next hours blurred together in a chaos of statements, evidence collection, and federal agents. Jurina's live streaming lie became reality as FBI behavioral analysts descended on the university, armed with her research data and the neurological profiles of potential killers. By noon, 17 faculty members and staff had been arrested. Search warrants uncovered dozens of bodies hidden throughout the campus infrastructure. Students who'd been missing for years were found in converted research spaces beneath the psychology building. But Harrison Wells had vanished. 3 weeks later, Jurina sat in her home office, now equipped with a state-of-the-art security system and federal protection. Emma played safely in the backyard while Michael worked from home, both of them guarded by agents who understood the ongoing threat. Her computer chimed with a new email. No sender address, but she recognized the writing immediately. "Congratulations on your discovery, Dr. Beth. You found the pattern that will change everything." But patterns work in more than one direction. Now that we know you can identify us, we know exactly who to eliminate first. Evolution requires the removal of obstacles. You've become an obstacle. We're patient. We're organized. And we're still out here, learning from your research how to be better predators. Sweet dreams. H.W. Jurina deleted the message and looked out at her daughter, who was building a sandcastle with innocent concentration. The pattern she'd discovered would revolutionize criminal psychology and save countless lives. But it had also declared war on a network of predators who saw her family as their primary target. She opened a new document and began typing her next research proposal. If evil had a detectable signature, then maybe, just maybe, it also had a cure. Outside, storm clouds gathered over the suburban neighborhood, and somewhere in that darkness, monsters were planning their next move. The battle between human psychology and inhuman evil has only just begun. If this chilling tale of scientific discovery turned deadly kept you on the edge of your seat, you need to subscribe right now. Dr. Jurina Beth's story continues, and the network of killers she exposed is still hunting. Share this with anyone brave enough to peer into the darkest corners of the human mind, but warn them, some knowledge comes with a price. Comment below, do you think evil can truly be detected and stopped, or are some monsters too intelligent to ever be caught? Hit that notification bell and join us as we dive deeper into the terrifying intersection of psychology and predation. Trust us, after watching this, you'll never look at your colleagues the same way again. The next episode reveals what happened to Harrison Wells, and you won't believe where he's hiding now.